Hello, fellow exiles, it's your boy Regis. So, first and foremost, I want to apologize for basically disappearing after my initial build video for the Chaos Incinerate Chronomancer. Life updates TLDR, I got a new job, but it has been taking a huge chunk of my personal time and energy. So, by the time I get back home from work, I'm already physically exhausted, and honestly, I just want to rest as much as possible. But part of me genuinely felt like I let some of you guys down by suddenly going quiet after putting out the build and getting people excited for the future updates. Trust me, it was never because I lost interest in the build or stopped caring about the community behind it. If anything, I've been still paying attention to all the Chronomancer discussions, changes, theory crafting, and questions in the background whenever I had free time. But before we get into the 0.5 update for the Chaos Incinerate Chronomancer, there is something important that needs to be addressed first. A few weeks ago, I've been told by someone who followed the build back in 0.4 about another PoE 2 content creator named Jin for Speed uploading a Chronomancer build video that was very clearly based on the same archetype and build concept that I've been playing, testing, refining, and showcasing over time. So his build setup, gem setup, and even damage scaling was either outright identical or extremely close to what had already been established beforehand. Now, to be completely transparent, I'm not claiming ownership of the build itself. For all I know, someone else may have experimented with the concept even earlier, but the person who inspired me to start playing and continue developing the build further was Nextax, and I've always made sure to properly credit that. I've also credited Swedge for the Incinerate's crit scaling ideas that helped shape later versions of the setup. The issue here is not somebody else made a video on the build. The main issue is when somebody takes an already established build, slaps on more powerful or more expensive gear, and then structures the content extremely similar to existing videos surrounding it while giving zero credit to the people who inspired and popularized it in the first place. And what's worse was credit was only added after he got called out for it, which honestly makes it hard for me to believe there were any intentions of crediting either me or Nextax in the first place. Because if an idea is not originally yours, credit the right people. It only takes a few seconds to acknowledge the people who inspired or contributed to it. Like, spend a few seconds to give a shout out in your videos. It's not that hard. And my philosophy when playing the builds in PoE 1 or PoE 2 is to make the builds as accessible as possible, especially for newer players and the people who are completely new to the ARPG genre, like my friends in the VTuber scene. I have never liked the idea of spending insane amounts of time and currencies just to push a build to the point where it deletes bosses in less than a second. That was never the purpose of the Chronomancer build in the first place. The goal of this build was to create something that could clear content reliably, handle bosses safely, and serve as a comfortable introduction for players who are completely new to PoE 2. Because come on guys, let's be real, anybody can throw expensive gear onto a character and make the damage look impressive. What interests me was playing and sharing a build that normal players could actually put together and succeed with. At the end of the day, people are free to play the build, improve it, adapt it, and make content around it. But if your content is built on ideas that were already established by other creators, then giving proper credit shouldn't be something that only happens after being called out for it. One of the things I've always liked about PoE community is how willing people are to share their ideas, discoveries, and builds with one another. But that only works when creators are honest about where those ideas come from. To me, that's a matter of integrity. Now with that out of the way, let's talk about the 0.5 Chaos Incinerate Chronomancer updates. First and foremost, you probably noticed I wasn't streaming or making contents about practicing League Start, since one of the level designers from GGG actually mentioned that League Start practicing is not recommended since they made pretty drastic changes during the early acts unless you want to familiarize yourself how Sorcerers plays through the early acts. So instead, I'm mostly gonna focus on understanding the new Chronomancer changes and how they affect the build overall. The .build file is ready for 0.5, But for now, it's going to be based around the non-crit version of the build. And honestly, for week 1, it's completely fine. I don't think there's any need to rush straight into the crit variant unless you already know what you're doing and have the currency to support it, of course. Because the non-crit version remains much easier to gear, more accessible, and should comfortably get you through progression while you hoard up currencies for future upgrades. Also, feel free to join the Discord linked in the description. It's the best place to discuss the build, share upgrades, test interactions, ask questions, or share your own discoveries as the league progresses. You also get notified whenever I go live on Twitch or upload new videos and updates on YouTube, so it's the easiest way to stay up to date with everything related to the build. Now back to the Chronomancer updates, nothing much has changed. I even checked the new passive tree for 0.5, and the nodes that we're going to allocate is not going to be heavily affected either. The only node that is going to be affected by the change is we're gonna have 10% less maximum energy shield from Patient Barrier. Well, due to GGG nerfing ES nodes all over the tree, but honestly, that's not a big deal. One common question is, will I go CI later on? The answer is no, because personally, I'm too lazy to go CI swap later on because I have to spend currencies to re-gear again. It's just a me thing. But if you do go for CI, you can completely ignore getting Chaos Resistance on your gear, which opens up getting other stats on your gear, such as your rings, because since there's a new ring base called the Oneric ring, but we're gonna talk about it later. In conclusion, it's an optional choice, but it's not a necessity, so it is all up to you. Next up, I'm pretty sure everybody noticed a specific unique ring got buffed, which is the Blackflame ring. The thing that immediately caught my attention was the line that goes, "Withered does not expire on enemies ignited by you." Since we're running Withering Presence alongside Withering Touch on Dark Effigy, once we've ignite the boss with Incinerate, the withered stacks are not gonna go anywhere during boss fights. And the ring's ignite magnitude got buffed from a 50% into a 80 to 100% roll on it. So the reduced ignite duration on enemies is not a big deal since we're gonna melt shit down anyways. And on top of that, ignite now deals chaos damage instead of fire damage, which naturally fits into what we're already trying to do. However, do not sleep on the new base called the Oneric ring. This new ring base has an implicit chaos damage mod which is going to be very juicy for us. And depending on the rolls, it might actually end up outperforming Blackflame. And since the base itself has the chaos damage implicit mod, ideally you want to hit another chaos damage prefix mod. And if you go for CI, you can actually spare a free suffix mod for cast speed on it. Then, in terms of gearing your other items, it's pretty much the same as before. Get life, get ES, cap out your resistances, get plus level of spell skills to boost your spells across the board that would add more DPS. Some damage ass mods on your wand could be good as well. Ignite magnitude and all that. I want to look into the new crafting material that guarantees chronomancy mods from the content reveal trailer. Because I had an idea, if we're able to increase more cooldown reduction, does that mean we're able to spam time snap into spamming time freeze? That's gotta be every Chronomancer's wet dream. But for now, we don't have much data on it, so let's just play it safe. Now let's move on to our ascendancy nodes. So Sands of Time is now increased skill speed instead of cast speed, which is a plus, but to be honest, there's nothing big of a deal to note out here. But now, GGG has given us a new node called Phase Form, which, my opinion, I think is a very strong early game defensive option because most dangerous damage during the axe comes from direct hits or boss slams. So it grants 30% less damage taken and also delays 30% of damage from enemy hits. Note enemy hits over 4 seconds and making incoming damage significantly easier to deal with. And honestly, I think it's a free progenesis. And to those who play PoE 1, you definitely know what I'm talking about. And I think arguably even better in some situations because since you're getting both damage mitigation and also damage delay from a single ascendancy node. So that makes incoming damage much less punishing and gives you more time to react and recover during boss fights. Okay, lastly, let's address the elephant in the room. In order to get time freeze, now we have to allocate time snap first. But relax, the build is not dead. Choosing Chronomancer is still fine. You don't have to swap to Lich or you don't have to swap to anything else. Chronomancer is still fine. Honestly, I think the biggest issue for most people is that time snap was never been a particularly popular node. So I think a lot of players just don't see much value in it, which is why being forced to take it now feels bad. I wish GGG will reconsider and swap back the nodes, but keep phase form, because time snap feels like a waste of 2 ascendancy points, and personally I still prefer the old route of going from temporal rift into time freeze. Because if not for me, GGG, please think for the newer players as well. Because for newer players, temporal rift is such an incredibly safety net. Being able to undo mistakes and recover from bad situations makes learning the game much less punishing, which is incredibly valuable while you're still learning the game. But in conclusion, while the new path thing is definitely a nerf to how we used to allocate our points, it's still nowhere near enough for me to say that Chronomancer is dead or unplayable. So with the new ascendancy layout, I think the build ends up having 2 different directions you can take. So one of the options is the more defensive route. You take phase form and then you path into footprints in the sand, and this gives you a lot more survivability and utility. And personally, it's the route I recommend for newer players or anybody who's looking for a safer experience. So the another route for a more offensive approach is you could skip allocating phase form and footprints in the sand entirely, then maybe take Quicksand or Hourglass for the increased skill speed, and then spend your remaining 2 ascendancy points like Apex of the Moment to slow everything down around you. This gives you a little bit more crowd control and clear speed, but then again, you can always allocate back phase form and then spend the remaining 2 points wherever you see fit. So overall, I think our Chronomancer is going to be just fine in 0.5. The build is still safe, viable, and I'll personally be league starting it myself. And I do want to apologize for not getting this video out sooner, because between work and a few hiccups behind the scene, time got away from me and league launch is only a few hours away now. I also didn't have much time as I like to work on the editing for this video. I was so focused on getting the information out as accurately as possible before league start for you guys. And of course, shout out to Nexta and Swedge for the inspiration and ideas that helped shape this build. Oh, and before I forget, for everybody who's asking about my loot filter, yes, I'll be making a new one. It'll be completely free for everybody, so I'll share it once it's ready. Trust me, you guys are gonna love it. Thank you guys for watching and for putting up my lack of updates. I genuinely didn't expect this build to grow as much as it did, so it's been really cool seeing so many people trying it out. So good luck, have fun during league start. I'll be around on Twitch and YouTube later, so feel free to come hang out. Peace!